Hi guys, and welcome to this week's episode of the In the Hub podcast, brought to you by Playbox Technology UK. Today, we're speaking to Darren Long, Group Operations Transformation Director at Sky. Darren holds over 30 years of experience leading operational, technical, and cultural change in one of the world's most recognised broadcast media brands. Darren also holds the position of Board Trustee at the British Forces Broadcasting Service, the military charity and broadcaster that informs, entertains, and connects the UK's armed forces. Hope you enjoy this episode. Welcome to the In the Hub podcast, Darren. Again, thank you so much for taking the time out this morning.
No problem at all.
Just for some kind of background for anyone who might not already know about you and your role in the industry, how did you come to be involved in broadcasting, and where did it all begin for you?
Well, I think it began because my mother was incredibly interested in movies and films, and I have to say it kind of was always something I wanted to do. I knew age 9 where I wanted to be. And I know that's very odd for most people, but for me, it was, I knew I wanted to either be in film or TV, behind the scenes, obviously not in front, and I just stuck to my ambition.
So we'll just jump straight into the bulk of the questions then, Darren, and something that I wanted to discuss with you after looking through some of your previous interviews and articles and things like that is this whole idea of content factories. And I think that idea of a content factory, it's quite a seasoned term in our industry, isn't it? And it's been thrown around quite a lot. And a lot of people kind of view the content factory, the kind of ideation, creation, distribution of content as something that's not too dissimilar to the assembly of cars or bars of soap. So going through this whole kind of manufacturing process.
And I think it's a really good analogy you use there, because for a long time, the industry, and certainly I felt it in the sort of TV industry, it was very much stuck in the old way of working and very reticent to move on and change things, because a bit like a Coca-Cola can, they just didn't want to change that brand. It was something which was safe. It was the way we'd always done it. If you asked people to change, then that was a strange thing to say. And I think you're 100% right. The analogy of, we use Amazon or various other companies out there. That's all it is. We're producing content. We're then doing something with content. We're manipulating it. We're changing it. We're altering it. We're getting it ready for distribution, and then we're sending it to the customer. And so it truly is a supply chain. And I think it's important that people don't try and put something more than what it is. Yes, the creation side is something incredibly different, and certainly needs skill and real storytelling. But the actual way we distribute content is changing, and I have to say I'm really pleased to see the industry starting to pick up. Yes, for reasons which are the coronavirus in the last couple of years, but if there's anything good that comes out of it, I think we'll all come out a much more refined factory in the future.
Yeah, and just in terms of coronavirus, are you kind of seeing a revolution in the way that broadcasters and content providers are kind of creating content? You know, is there kind of modernisation going on as a result of COVID?
Yeah, I think there's 100% modernisation. I think initially it was shock and horror. Can we do everything? We did everything. And now it's about, okay, so that worked, but there were things in our supply chain or the ways of working that didn't work so well. So we've now sort of looked at that. And I think let's not put everything on COVID. Let's just say probably the industry was at a point, and COVID accelerated that point.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to say that, certainly in Sky now, it's all about how do we mechanize, how do we deliver better content, quicker, faster, and with more enrichment. And I think, yes, COVID accelerated that, and without a doubt, it focused our minds. But let's just say that, like any part of the industry, when we went from widescreen to HD and HD, it's on to UHD, there's always a point that really means a difference, and I think, or makes a difference. I think this was our point. We were ready for it. I just don't think we realised it. And now there's an opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, Darren. And just moving on to the cloud in general as well, as quite a hot topic at the moment. I think it's safe to say that you're quite a big advocate for the cloud, aren't you, Darren, in kind of all aspects of the broadcasting workflow?
Absolutely. I think it's imperative that people understand that to be adaptive, to distribute at scale, and to always constantly be able to change. The exciting thing, and the really exciting thing, is that cloud allows us just to build a set of Lego blocks. We can very quickly build our Lego blocks up. We can decide on what services we want to bring in, and we can decide if those services are too expensive or failing to remove them. If you look at the way we used to work, everything was hard coded. Everything was very much point to point. Now, and this is the beauty, and this is what I think is exciting going forward, you can see that we can adapt so quickly now. We can spin services up so differently. And for the customer and for the companies out there, they have to adopt and embrace cloud. If they don't, then there'll be people a lot faster coming behind them.
Yes, 100%. And I know you just touched on some of the benefits that you guys might have seen over at Sky and kind of, the benefits of cloud enabling for the bigger broadcasters. What about those kind of smaller broadcasters that might be stuck in their ways, might just be starting up? What do you think is the kind of one thing that should, almost persuade those guys to choose the cloud?
Well, I think the opportunity out there is huge for them. There's companies out there like InPlayer where they offer services to smaller companies that allow them to host a service like Netflix or Amazon or any of those sort of things. And when you look at those opportunities, it means that just because you're a small company, you don't have to have a small world. And I think this is the beauty of cloud. Everyone can hide behind the fact that actually, as an organization, you have more tools available to you. You have more ways to engage with your customer. And the exciting thing in the future is that's going to bring opportunity to people that probably wouldn't, firstly, be able to afford it, and secondly, wouldn't think about doing it.
Yes, yeah. I think we're definitely, as a company as well, as at Playbox, we're seeing benefits across the board and uptake among, like I said, these massive broadcasters that are just kind of getting started in cloud and, right back down to these smaller startups in developing countries. So it really is quite an exciting time at the moment.
Yeah, it is. And I think, everyone needs to embrace it, and they need to embrace it as well, because don't forget, they're going to be distributing also to larger organizations and, will want it in a certain way. And I think cloud gives them the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, 100%, exactly. And Darren, I just wanted to call back to supply chains. I know we touched on that a little earlier, but it's something I'm quite intrigued about. And I know obviously COVID will have had a massive impact on supply chains in our industry. There's been a couple of years of uncertainty now. So with kind of audiences and their taste for fresh content at an all-time high, I mean, it always is at an all-time high, isn't it? How might we see broadcasters and content providers adapting their supply chains now?
Well, I think, like I say, the opportunity to mechanize and simplify, I think that's the important thing. I think if you look at supply chains over the last few years, it was so difficult because, let's face it, there are so many devices, so many ways to distribute. And I think from a supply chain point of view, where we're going is going to give us the ability to cope. I genuinely don't think we could have coped before. I think we could have been in a situation where we could have got very stuck in a corner, and we would have found that other organizations that were more adept and skillful would have been able to get their supply chain delivering to multiple platforms a lot quicker. And I think this is the one thing from a supply chain point of view people have to realize. The world is definitely not going to change in the fact that consumers will get bored very quickly with the way that they receive content. In other words, they want to receive it on different platforms. No one person is ever the same. If you look at somebody like me, I've got every single platform you could possibly imagine. Now, when you look at that, you think to yourself, well, that's madness. But the fact of the matter is that I want content and I want it now, and I want to view it in the way I want to do it. In other words, in the morning, I may be watching YouTube on my iPad. In the afternoon, I may be watching something on my mobile phone. And then I'll be watching it on my Apple TV or my Skybox or whatever. And I think that this is the important thing to understand, is that before, in supply chains, we were trying to hard code delivery to each of these areas. Impossible. You get to a point of saturation where all that it causes really is the fact that you stop distributing to certain platforms because it becomes too hard, too costly, too hard. And I think that's where the future of supply chains is super important.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I just wanted to bring it up because there has been so much change, and there's a lot of things to take into account for big and small broadcasters at the moment.
Absolutely.
And I just wanted to bring it to you personally, Darren, for a moment. And for anyone who might not already know, what does your work being involved as a trustee within the British Forces Broadcast Service involve? And what kind of things does the service provide to our armed forces?
Yeah, so the BFBS, which is the British Forces Broadcasting Service, it provides a number of things. So it provides obviously television and radio into remote parts of the world. It was set up sort of just after just during the Second World War, and it has continued to deliver services and social services also to all the troops, whether they be Army, Navy, Air Force, in different ways. Because again, from a distribution platform point of view, some of these areas that they have to broadcast in are areas which remote, difficult, maybe via satellite. And the BFBS has been incredibly successful at bringing home to the troops a bit of, where UK TV and UK radio that allows them to really connect with their family and friends. And it has been a real connection over the years. And also what the BFBS has also been incredibly good at is also because it's set up as a charity, it's about giving back to the armed forces as well in a charitable way. So the donations and also supporting all their events that they do across all the armed forces. And it's really something built into the DNA of the military, that when they go abroad, they know it doesn't matter where they are, that the service will be transmitting to them in a personal way that is relevant also to them, and also ensuring that they just don't get as homesick as possibly they might. So it's a brilliant thing to be involved in. I was after a couple of years to join the board because it's, as you can imagine, run by a lot of ex-military people. They wanted to bring a bit of the industry to the BFBS and brought in a few trustees. And I was lucky enough to be asked to come along and help.
That's brilliant. And it's hugely important work, isn't it? And I imagine, especially at the moment with the Euros going on as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's also, and one thing I will say about from a broadcaster's point of view and a rights holder's point of view, over the years they've been incredibly supportive and allowing the broadcast to be transmitted all over the world and effectively allowing the rights to be used in a way that probably traditionally wouldn't have been used. So I think it's very important to also call out the rights holders who have been instrumental in making this service incredibly successful.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic stuff, Darren. And this is a question that we ask at the end of every podcast. Some find it a bit harder than others. But if you could sum it up into one word, if you could boil it down into one word only, what do you envision for the future of the broadcasting industry?
Opportunity, pure and simple. There is so much opportunity. We've just got to grab it. I think it's a word I love, and it's a word I stand by, because people need to embrace the fact that we're moving forward, and the opportunity in front of them, is as wide as anyone's imagination. And so for me personally, that's that's what we've got to look forward to.
Yeah, I think coming out of the side of COVID and all the kind of uncertainty that bring, there's a lot of hope around now. There's a lot of optimism, and that's the kind of stuff we like in this industry, isn't it?
No, most definitely, and I think let's use this terrible time we've had over the last couple of years as a brilliant opportunity to change the way that this industry works and this industry engages with the vast amount of customers that we found who were absolutely passionate for the content during a pandemic, and I think that's important not to forget.
Yeah, 100%. So, Darren, obviously, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, no problem.
Are there any kind of exciting plans in the pipeline for you that you can tell us about?
Well, I think, look, the exciting thing for me is it's always changing. And I think, the one reason I've been at Sky such a long time is because, my job has constantly changed, whether it was working in studios, whether it was running Sky Sports operations, whether it was running production services, or whether it was running sort of content supply chain. I think for me personally, it's always evolving, and that's what keeps me, and that's what makes me want to keep going and excited, really.
I think you're very much at the forefront of change there, aren't you? I think you've selected the least boring job in the world, possibly, which is brilliant.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think people make change, and all that sometimes people like myself are able to do is enable that change.
Yeah, 100%. And how can people get in touch with you directly if they want to have a chat about anything?
Well, I think the best way is via LinkedIn. I'm a prolific user of LinkedIn. If anyone wants to connect me through there, then I'm more than happy for them to contact me through that way.
Fantastic. And we'll link to your LinkedIn in the description of the podcast as well, Darren. So anyone on Spotify, Apple Music, you can head to the description, find Darren there.
Brilliant.
So again, thank you, Darren, for taking the time out. We really do appreciate it and shedding some light on some of the topics that we covered today. No,
I appreciate it, Neil. And look, the future is an opportunity. Let's all grab it. And thanks for your time today.
100%. Love it. Thank you very much, Darren.
Bye-bye.